Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees lose the home series, the Tampa Bay Rays, 2 of 3. So that's back-to-back series that the Yankees have lost to AL East opponents, losing 2 of 3 at Baltimore now. The same here, home against the Tampa Bay Rays. 7-6 now in division. Yankees still lead the American League East at 19-15, 3 games ahead on the loss side of Boston, Toronto, and Tampa. 5 ahead on the loss side of the last place Baltimore Orioles, but just not great in many ways. The way that they're losing some of these games, and just the fact that Yankees really had a chance to kind of build on the lead they had. And so, yes, while it's good that this division is very mediocre, there's missed opportunities here 100%. For a while, it was one of those things where, okay, where maybe you aren't getting sweeps, but you're winning series. Now it's going from you're now losing series. And to me, not what you're looking for. And a lot of losses that are just um, lost late in games, right? So Yankees win the first game of the series, and Max Fried again has just been absolutely unbelievably brilliant. And so thanks to seven shutout innings from Fried and a 3-run homer by Paul Goldschmidt, they were able to win uh, pretty handily in game one. It wasn't easy, but thanks to that, they were good. Game two, the bats were quieted by Zach Littell, and that's a problem in and of itself, but they had a 2-1 lead going to the eighth and lost the game. I won't get into more details of what happened there. Also, Yankees have been playing some pretty sloppy defense lately, and that's the thing that we were hoping that maybe they were over that hump a little bit. I don't know that they necessarily are, definitely. Um, so that's the other issue is, um, you know, it's the way that you lose. And I'm not seeing, even though the Yankees, it's not as if they haven't been trying to come back in games, right? I'm not saying at all that they've like just laid down and died. That's far from the case. Unfortunately, just as far as the results go, the Yankees losses, there's a lot of them where they've had a lead going into the eighth inning and wasn't able to come out with the victory. On the flip side, I don't recall many, if any, games at all where the Yankees were trailing late and won the game. Again, not to say that they didn't make it interesting or that they didn't tie. This is not calling them out, just the facts. And the point is that this 19-15 record should be a lot better than what it is. And I think it's a few things. It's based on the opponents they've played and just based on just the nature of the games. So game two hurt. Like games 2 and 3 hurt for different reasons. Game two for the fact that really like it was right there for them to take and they didn't take it. Game three really, in a very rainy, ugly, sloppy game, where you don't get a great start from Will Warren. And we'll talk about game two where Ryan Yarbrough got the surprise spot start and got the job done. Clark Schmidt pushed back to Tuesday. Um, but not great by Will Warren, but then also just the lineup wasn't grade A at all. And part of that was because Anthony Volpe got hurt in the second game, which we'll discuss. Lot going on in this series. But also the fact that, you know, Austin Wells was in the lineup, neither was Ben Rice. And I understand that with Ben Rice, like there's a rotation. That's just what it is. Like between Grisham, Dominguez, Rice, Bellinger to a degree, there is a rotation. And so it was Rice's term. Then also to not have Wells in there when it wasn't a day game after a night game. And I just, that was an ugly looking lineup. And then also some of the pitching decisions as well, where Carlos Carrasco, who at this point you have to wonder whether he's even still in the rotation, honestly. Like, will he get his next turn? We'll see. He may still be. The reason why this happened was because of the fact of the Schmidt injury. It kind of took Carrasco's spot away. And so Carrasco was in there, just the whole thing. It felt like one of those games that we've seen in recent years where not that it was a punt game, but it didn't seem like it seemed like they were more looking out ahead into the future and, instead of the game at hand. Because I feel like if they attack this game a different way, lineup wise, decision making wise, I didn't understand at all what they were doing as far as the pinch hitting. And I understand that they were dealing with Volpe being unavailable, but some of the decisions by Boone I didn't understand. So just an ugly end of the series. So two very different games in a lot of ways, but hurt in different ways. And in some ways, I can that second loss stings just because, well, game two, I should say. The game two loss was like, it was right there for them. But let's kind of go through things a bit chronologically and dating back to last series. So Jazz gets that oblique injury, and it turns out that it's a little worse than what was expected. Now, I had a feeling it'd be an IL stint, but I was thinking maybe more along the 2 to 4 week variety. It's being seen as a 4 to 6 week injury, which is more than expected. And I'm hoping that somehow with Jazz that this can be a nice reset where we see him, maybe in June, maybe somehow earlier than that. He could beat the timeline, but let's say it's June and he can be more of the player that we're hoping for, not the one that we've seen. So, not good news, but maybe it turns out to be a good thing. Your B boss was called up and finally made his major league debut, and I think we're going to see him a good amount. I think, when there's right-handed starters in the mound, expect to see B boss at second base. And with him, didn't put up a whole lot of stats. Did get his first major league hit in game three, but I like his presence at the plate. Like I want to give him a chance. I think that he's worth giving a look to. I'm curious about him. There's just certain things. I remember when they made the trade with the Dodgers, like his player profile, uh, at as it pertains to him batting. And I'm not talking about his defense. I think there could be a hitter there. There could be a major league hitter there for sure. So he's now in the mix, and with that though, again, the lineup on paper, it's not looking great. Especially again that game three lineup with Volpe out, Wells out, it was quite ugly. So there's that. Um, as far as other injury things, and again, this is kind of jumping ahead. That Clark Schmidt, I guess he had maybe some discomfort on his side. Nothing overly serious because he's going to be good to go Tuesday as we know it. So it's not as if it's any IL situation, but he was pushed back. Brian Yarborough got a spot start again. I think Yarborough they should consider having when they can him being a starter. I don't think it's such a bad idea, honestly. Um, but as far as other injuries, I don't believe there are any other. I mean, Anthony Volpe sustained a shoulder injury game two, which looks scary upon injury, but at worst, I think maybe he'll sit out another game or two. There's a chance he might be right back in there for the start of the Padres series, and that's weather pending as well. There's some bad weather in the forecast, so we'll see what happens as far as that is concerned. But I just wonder, um, with Volpe, if they try to play a little bit cautious, regardless of anything, right? He seemed a little like he is a tough player, right? Like, say we want him Anthony Volpe, he's tough. He doesn't miss many games. Um, and so he never dealt with some of this before. So I think he was more shook up than anything. But the X-rays and MRIs all came back clean. So I think he'll be all right. And just kind of a matter of when. But it doesn't seem like this is an IL situation for Volpe. Um, so yeah, let's jump into this again. I wouldn't necessarily call this series eventful, but it just feels like there's a lot going on as far as, I don't know, injuries and things of that nature. But um, look, game one, you had to feel pretty good. Max Fried has been ridiculous. 6-0, 7-0 in starts, and really could have been 7-0 himself. Again, he was 1 out away from being 7-0. He goes 7 innings, 1 hit allowed, no runs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. And this is after, if you remember his last outing against the Rays, he was flirting with a no-hitter. So clearly, as the Rays number, just in general, his ERA is down to 1.01. That is crazy. In 7 starts. That is insane. Um, so Fried was great. And then Ryan Pepe on the other end, um, he wasn't bad, but he certainly wasn't dominant. He only had 1 strikeout in 4 and a third innings, allows 5 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks. Now, those were inherited runs allowed. It was not, um, Pepio wasn't on the mound when those runs were given up, but they do fall to him. And so he takes the loss and drops the 2 and 4. So as far as the lineup was concerned, the odd man out was Jason Dominguez. And it does feel like, let's say somehow we fast forward and it's the playoffs, right? It to me would feel as if Dominguez would be the odd man out. It would appear as if, and deservedly so, that Trent Grisham has surpassed Dominguez. Now, that all said, it truly is a rotation. It really is kind of a game by game thing. So Dominguez was the one that was out. Bebas gets his first major league start and appearance in the regular season. Um, And, the rest of the lineup looks pretty much as is. Trent Grisham has pretty much found himself in that leadoff spot against righties, and that remained the case again. Ben Rice batting behind Judge. So those have been things that have continued. And when Rice is out of the lineup, or when Grisham is out of the lineup, then Bellinger kind of slides his way into the top three. Bellinger, in fact, actually led off game two with Grisham out. So this was a game, again, not any offense to speak of until later on, until the fifth inning is where it all gets done. I'm just going to jump ahead right there at this point. And maybe skipping over some things that happened, again, with that being the first game, and this series took on kind of a new tone negatively, but what was good was in the fifth, B-Boss is the one that gets the leadoff walk. And then Aaron Judge gets a one-out double. I'll just say it right here. Judge, another really good series. It's funny. He goes 1 for 5 of the double in game 3, and then ends up, it's like, for by his standards, bad. But um, he leaves this series, again, with a 14-game hitting streak, which is extremely impressive. But he's batting .423 with a 1287 OPS, 11 homers, 33 RBIs, just crazy, crazy stuff that he basically continues to lead these series with basically better numbers than he had before, which is hard because the numbers are already insane. But you get that one-out double by Judge. They bring on the lefty Mason Montgomery, who strikes out Ben Rice. And then, a bit of a mistake with Cody Bellinger on deck. And granted, Cody Bellinger struggles and all. He's actually been pretty good against lefties this year. But there was a pitch to Paul Goldschmidt that was just too good. And a second and third two-hit situation, Goldschmidt goes short porch to the opposite field for a 3-run homer. His third homer of the year, gives the Yankees a 3-0 lead. And that was the big blow of the game, the only blow of the game. So really, the new acquisitions, Fried and Goldschmidt, get it done. To give the Yanks a 3-0 lead. Fried goes 7 innings. And interestingly enough, Devin Williams pitches the 8th inning. And this might be a thing that we see now. When we talk about game 2, you'll know that it won't be all the time, but also based on the result of game 2, it could be. But Devin Williams pitches a very sound 1-2-3 inning, including a strikeout in the 8th inning. So these are things you're looking for. So Devin Williams picks up his first hold of the season. And then in the 9th inning, it's Luke Weaver doing what Luke Weaver does. He goes 1-2-3 with a couple of strikeouts. And so Weaver still has not allowed a run this season, gets his third save. So while the offense was really held down for most of the series, and they only go 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position, out one hit being the Goldschmidt homer. But they get it done. And again, Fried's the story here. Another tremendous outing. The Yankees take game 1, 3-0, and you're feeling pretty good about it. Game 2, there's some positives and some negatives. The main positive is Ryan Yarbrough. And the one thing is the walks. And look, Yankee pitching has done that is, to me, the biggest problem I've had with Yankee pitching as a whole is the walks. That isn't good. But Yarbrough was 4 innings, 1 run. You can't ask for much better than that. And he really has been pretty good. After he had that one or two early shaky, not so good outings, for the most part, he's been pretty dependable and has eaten some key innings for the Yankees at different points, this being to start the game. And the odd man out in the lineup here was Trent Grisham. He would come in off the bench. And so Cody Bellinger would be leading off in this one. But he was good. But Zach Littell, this was the issue. Zach Littell goes 7 innings, only allows 3 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts, and he just allows 2 solo homers to Judge and Austin Wells. So Littell improves to 2-5. So that, to me, the offense really was bad in game 2. But it starts out good as Aaron Judge in the first inning hits his 11th homer of the year, gives the Yankees a 1-0 lead. But then the Rays come back, and with the Tampa Bay Rays, it's the steal game. So many steals for the Rays. In fact, in game 2, they end up getting, I think it might have been 6. I think it was 6 steals. Caballero, Meisner, Meade, 2 by Simpson, and Brandon Lau. And that's problematic for a Ray team that really, on paper, and even beyond that, they don't have the greatest offense, but they seem like they're able to make things happen with their speed. And it's a leadoff walk by Curtis Meade. Those leadoff walks come back to bite. They do here. And it ends up being a double, so that kind of sets things into motion. And with bases loaded and 1 out, Taylor Walls gets a sac fly to tie it up at 1. But then in the bottom of the 5th, Austin Wells homers. Now, this is after Ian Hamilton pitched the scoreless fifth. It was not the easiest inning for Hamilton. He threw like, I think, what was it, 30 pitches flat in one inning. So not pitch efficient, but he got 3 strikeouts. His stuff looks good. And I wonder if at some point Hamilton moves up the pecking order slightly. But it was a situation where Austin Wells, then the bottom of the fifth, hits his 6th homer of the year to make it 2-1. Austin Wells is starting to get things going a bit at the plate. Um, I don't think that he's at the point where he was last year in the middle of the year where he was really going, but I feel like there's been slow improvements for Wells, and that makes it 2-1. And then Fernando Cruz, 2 scoreless innings. I mean, gets his 5th hold. ERA's down to 1.45. Only actually 1 strikeout for him in 2 innings, but he has just been absolute nails. And the Yankees maintain the 2-1 lead. And then things go south in the 8th inning. This is it. And for defensive purposes, Grisham in to center, Bellinger over to left. Dominguez out of the game. And it's Mark Leonard Jr. that comes on. And as much as Mark Leonard Jr., he's a good pitcher. He is. It's unfortunate, though, him pitching in the 8th inning, a 1-run game, considering the options and arms you have. And they didn't want to go back to Devin Williams. And I can't say I blame them. Like, I'm not second guessing that at all. Based on how he had been performing, he pitched that before in a 3-run game. I kind of get it, because if he fucked up, like, the crowd would have. This isn't the reason you don't do it, but like, I'm just saying, it's not like it wouldn't be like Boone would have been criticized more if Williams came in and fucked up. So anyway, Leiter takes the loss, drops to 2-3. And it starts out with a Christopher Morel infield single. And what happens is Anthony Volpe dives in between short and third, and he, termed it as popping his shoulder. He was in a lot of pain, but he luckily was able to stay in the game. And they did a battery of tests, but he passed all of it. He stayed in the game, but he didn't play on Sunday, the game 3. So anyway, as far as the inning progressing, because Volpe is involved again, Chandler Simpson as a pinch runner steals, and it's Chandler Simpson. Like, it is scary what he can do. And it's affected the Yankees already, and he's a young player with a lot of promise. Then Brandon Lau walks. That's where you go wrong. And then it's a double steal. Second and third. Luckily for Leiter, he gets Junior Caminero to strike out. So it looks like maybe he can find his way either out of it or, making it 2-2. But what happens is Curtis Mead gets an RBI single, a really good at bat by Mead. And then Jose Caballero hits a ground ball to Volpe. And I don't think that Volpe was going to be able to get the double play. It ends up being an error. He gets no one out. He kind of trips a little bit, bobbles it, and it's an error for Volpe. And so the Rays take a 3-2 lead. So it's frustrating because if everything went exactly right, maybe. But Caballero's got a ton of speed. So anyway, kind of, again, the Rays kind of dinked and dunked their way to victories here. Again, it was taking advantage of Yankee mistakes, walks, steals, singles, and there you are. So bottom of the 8th is where the Yankees get their best chance. And I should also mention that Tim Hill gets the final 5 outs of this game for the Yankees. But about in the 8th is where they get their best chance. Garrett Clevenger, the lefty, comes on for Littell. Leadoff single for Grisham. So lefty again. Grisham can hold his own versus lefties. Then Oswaldo flies out, and there was a chance that he was going to go sack bunt, but he didn't commit to that. And then Pablo Reyes pinch hits for Bibas again, and Reyes strikes out. You got players on this roster that really shouldn't be on the roster. Pablo Reyes being one of them, and I can't imagine that they're going to go much longer with Pablo Reyes. Again, his role is not one that breeds success because he doesn't play much, right? And so that's hard. When you don't play a whole lot, it is hard to get into a rhythm, but that's a sad state of affairs. When you have Pablo Reyes like pinch hitting for someone in that spot, shows you the state of the roster and the bench. So he strikes out, and then Bellinger gets a single off the lefty. Again, like I said, Bellinger's been pretty good against lefties this year. Then Edwin Uceta comes on for Aaron Judge. And it was an interesting decision by Kevin Cash, because what he could have done is he could have kept Clevenger in there, walked Judge, and then went Clevenger versus Rice lefty-lefty. But instead what happens is, and it works out for the Rays, he goes after Judge, and Judge grounds out. He hit the ball, Judge hit the ball hard, right? That's actually not necessary. I wouldn't say that. He hit the ball hard. But I also understand where Judge is coming from. If he's going to get something close, it was the ball that he swung at, but let's just put it this way. A questionable decision by the Rays works out, and the one chance the Yankees had, ironically, was Judge, and he rounds out. And we go to the bottom of the ninth, and Pete Fairbanks, the closer, comes on and takes the Yankees out 1-2-3. Rice, Goldschmidt, and Wells. And the Rays win 3-2. So that was the one the Yankees kind of let slip away. And um, we then go to the rubber game. And I want to say the Yankees in rubber games are approximately, I think, 1-3. If I recall. Again, it's not, and if that is the case, it's not like that's a crazy like number, right? It's not like you're 0-4 or anything to the extremes. But I guess it's just it's a tough thing. And look, you can look back to game two, right? To me, it's not all on game three, but Will Warren struggled. And I think his spot is tenuous in this rotation, as is Carlos Carrasco. That's a problem. Will Warren and Carlos Carrasco being in this rotation is not good. And so Warren loses to drop to 1-2, 4 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 5 runs, only 3 of them earned, 3 walks and 8 strikeouts. And his ERA is 5.65. So Warren's ERA is 5.65 and Carlos Carrasco's is 5.91. Like, again, it's going to be tough to win games when you have those guys taking the pill, 40% of the time. Like, that's going to have to change. I don't know. And whether it be Ryan Yarbrough, you can't have them both. You want to have one of them for a little bit longer, fine. But soon enough, hopefully neither of them are in the rotation. Carlos Carrasco's at the end of his career, and Will Warren, um, it just hasn't been good enough. Yes, there is talent there, but based on last year and this year, like, if you told me that Will Warren got sent down, I'm not having a problem with that at all. I'm just not. This lineup, though, is very poor. Rice on the bench, Wells on the bench, Volpe on the bench, and Bebos, which to me that was also strange too, because you had the righty Taj Bradley on the mound, and Taj Bradley gets the win, pitched pretty well. Again, not dominant. Like Ray pitching, starting pitching was not getting strikeouts in the series. Taj Bradley wins to go to 3-2, 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. But still, even though they weren't getting strikeouts, they were limiting the Yanks. Like they pitched well. They shut them down for the most part. And so you have a lineup where you have Dominguez hitting fifth, Escara hitting sixth, Pablo Reyes hitting seventh. That is really bad. But it doesn't help when you're not feeling well. And there was a rain delay to start this game, but in the second inning, the Rays get 1 run off of there was an Oswald Peraza error that kind of that it was an unearned run allowed, basically. And there was a walk to Ben Rortvedt in the mix there. There was a steal by Travis Jankowski before that. All the things I've talked about in the bottom of the order, giving the Yankees problems. And that should be the case. And we're talking about Ben Rortvedt, Taylor Walls, Travis Jankowski, not good. So Chandler Simpson gets an RBI ground to make it 1-0. Then in the third, Jonathan Aranda gets a solo homer, his fifth homer of the year. He's had a fantastic season, Jonathan Aranda. So that makes it 2-0 Tampa. And then in the fourth, after Judge hit a double play with first and second no out in the third. In the fourth, the Rays break it open a bit, and you had a catcher's interference on JC Escar that really set things up. Bases loaded, 1 out, and Brandon Lau gets a 2-run single to make it 4-0. And then Yandy Diaz gets an RBI single to make it 5-0. So just not a great job. Overall, again, just the defense was sloppy, a lot bad there. And it actually could have been worse than 5-0, but they're able to kind of hold it there. Warren, that is. And then Tyler Matzik comes on in the fifth. Jason Dominguez struggled the ball. And again, Dominguez's defense, it hasn't really killed them, but again, it's a bit shaky out there, if nothing else. But Tyler Matzik, he has not looked great. He didn't allow any runs, but he gave up 4 hits in 1 1/3 innings, 1 walk and 1 strikeout. So he's still like, look, I think with Matzik, you got to like let's see how things go type thing. But he's for sure like the last guy, besides like a long reliever, besides like Carrasco, whatever you want to call it. Like Matzik is kind of your last guy out of the pen. But he is able to hold the score at where it was, and then they kind of get a little bit of life with Cody Bellinger hitting a 2-run homer. His 200th career home run makes it 5-2. And that was a home run off of Taj Bradley. And then, the lefty Mason Montgomery comes on, and then Carlos Carrasco gives up 2 runs right back. So Carrasco was 3 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. That is Carlos Carrasco. Like him giving you 3 innings, giving him 2 runs, that's kind of par for the course. He's not going to really typically give you the clean innings. And what you get is a two-run single by Aranda. So that Bellinger, any momentum you got from the Bellinger homer was kind of gone. Um, Yankees get a little bit of traffic in the seventh, but to no avail. And then in the bottom of the eighth is where things get interesting, as Mason Engler is on for Tampa. Judge double, Bellinger walk, Goldschmidt RBI single to make it 7-3. Then Uceta comes in and Dominguez gets a single, and he hit it well, too, off the wall. It's too bad that they didn't get a run right there. And then JC Escarra's up, and I just don't understand why Escarra was hitting for himself. I understand Volpe wasn't available. I understand there was limitations, but you can't tell me that makes sense. Whether it be Ben Rice or Austin Wells, JC Escarra should not be hitting for himself there. And Boom was talking about hitting for Bebas. Like, okay, but I mean, I don't know. To me, I mean, I guess Bebas hadn't had a hit to that point, but the whole thing was just ass backwards. The way it all went down, I'm not going to go into full detail, but I just didn't agree with it. And you can't give me a great reason for it. And what does Escarra do? The worst thing you can do, a double play out at home, out at first. That basically killed the juice of the inning. And then Bebas does get a two-run single with 2 outs to make it 7-5. His first major league hit, and it gets him back in it. And then Ben Rice pinch hits for Oswaldo Cabrera and walks. To me, I would have rather it been Rice and Oswaldo than Escarra and Rice. And that was and I know there was different permutations and caveats, but still, like, you can pitch around Rice in that situation. That's exactly what they did. And then Oswald Peraza hits for himself and grounds out. Now, that one I understand because Wells was available, but you couldn't do that because then you wouldn't, like, that one I get, but that sucks as well. The fact that normally you would have gone Wells for Peraza. That was a whole clusterfuck. And to me, decisions were not great there either. So the score is 7-5. And then we go to the bottom of the ninth. And again, Pete Fairbanks looks good. He looked good in game 2 and even better in game 3 as he strikes out the side, Grisham, Judge, and Bellinger. And the Rays win the series 2-3 at Yankee Stadium. So now it's going to be a 3-game set against the team with the second best record in baseball, the San Diego Padres. Now, granted, they are better at home, but this is still a very good San Diego team and with some very interesting pitching matchups. So Nick Pivetta versus Carlos Rodon, and Nick Pivetta has been really good. He's 5-1 with a 1.78 ERA. The former Red Sox has really found a home this season with San Diego and look good. Rodon, you need him to be a stopper. He's been good lately, and you need him to be good again. And this is weather pending, right? Because, again, the forecast isn't great. Game 2 is really, to me, the most intriguing one from a Yankee fan's perspective because it's Michael King making his return to Yankee Stadium, and he's been excellent for San Diego against Clark Schmidt. And that almost feels somewhat fitting because those two, I feel like, they kind of came up around the same time. So King versus Schmidt in game 2, and then game 3, it's actually the struggling Dylan Cease, who, of course, has been great at different points in his career, but it's been a tough start for him with a 5.61 ERA against Max Fried, who's, of course, been amazing. So to me, a little bit, I mean, all 3 matchups provide its own sort of intrigue. So this should be a pretty interesting series, San Diego versus the Yankees. And it's going to be a tough one for the Yankees. Again, that's why it makes losing series to the Orioles and Rays a little bit, tougher to take because now it's more important that you can find a way to win series like this. And it will be Yankee Stadium. Yanks 19-15, still in first place in the AL East, but not playing the best brand of baseball, not doing that well in division. That could come back to bite them later down the road. But nonetheless, what looked like could have been, the Yankees were very much on the verge of winning the series. It ends up going the other way, and they lose 2 of 3 to the Tampa Bay Rays.